Growing up as a Rwandan political refugee in Burundi, hunger followed me and my community like a shadow. At 15 years old, in high school, when I tried to do my homework, pangs of hunger interrupted my concentration. I would read a sentence, but again and again, hunger would take me away from the present. Reading 2 pages took an hour. Reading a chapter felt like forever. I persevered. Eventually, my hard work paid off. I was awarded a United Nations High Commission for Refugees scholarship to attend the Lester B. Pearson College of the Pacific in Victoria, British Columbia. Those 2 years transformed my life. I joined 199 other students from around the world, and we lived, studied, and volunteered together. During my time there, I joined the Social Services Club. Every Wednesday and Friday afternoon, we drove into town to serve the community. We spent time with kids at the local Y and spent quality time with seniors in group homes. There, I learned the value of serving the community. I learned the value of volunteering and community service. How fulfilling it is to be able to give back to the community. Because I was living far away from home and with students from around the world, I realized that suddenly I became an expert on African affairs. And this was my first step into a teaching role. People asked me questions. They wanted to hear my opinion. And for that, I read and analyzed African development issues. My experiences with hunger and the war against malnutrition remain at the top of my priority list. But my relationship with hunger did not end there. At the end of the 2 years, I was required to return to Burundi. Bujumbura had little to offer me in terms of personal advancement. So my family sent me to live with an aunt in Kinshasa, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I spent 3 years learning to survive on the streets of Kinshasa. Food was very expensive. And to make ends meet, we ate a dish called kwanga. Kwanga is made of cassava root. It's boiled and pounded into a hard paste. Now, while we call it, jokingly, we call it bon voyage. It was a perfect food for travelers because it sat on your stomach and in your guts for days. Now, while kwanga had very nutritious value, while it kept us fed, kwanga did very little for our bodies. When Kinshasa couldn't give me what I was looking for, I moved to the East Coast, to Nairobi in Kenya. Now, Kenya, although Kenya's economy was more dynamic, food remained expensive. In Swahili, you can tell by the name of dishes the relationship between people and food. So spinach is called sukuma wiki. It means pushing the weak. In other words, you could not afford to buy meat by at the end of the month. So if you were low income, chances of eating meat were rare. But like housing, healthcare, and education, access to nutritious and affordable food should be a basic human right. Life continued to be a struggle in Nairobi, and some friends sponsored me to return to Canada as a landed immigrant. I was able to resume my education and became involved in the social justice movements in Victoria and Vancouver. My life took a positive turn, and I was able to continue supporting my family in Burundi. But the hunger that I experienced growing up never left my mind. In 1994, Rwanda made breaking news. In 100 days, more than a million people were slaughtered for no other reason than the fact that they were born Tutsis. I was devastated. Every Rwandan refugees wanted to help. Some people returned to the region, some joined the liberation struggle. Some of us decided to stay behind and continue the campaign to raise awareness of the causes of the genocide, the impact the genocide had had on people, and tell people what Rwandans were doing to rebuild their society. I saw the connection between my community and Canadians who wanted to help. So I founded a nonprofit organization called Building Bridges with Rwanda. Building Bridges with Rwanda offered a platform for international volunteers who wanted to learn the history, the culture, and the development story of Rwanda and connect them with Rwandans who are doing the work. Between 2008 and 2015, Building Bridges with Rwanda hosted more than 600 volunteers. People came from Canada, the US, France, United Kingdom, Belgium, Germany, Burundi, Uganda, South Korea, Colombia. Our teams focus on community development work through a series of training workshops. Neighbors and international volunteers work side by side to build food resilience in a community. I recruited Rwandan agriculture students to come and work with me in a small village called Gashora near the Burundi border. There, we train residents how to build household kitchen gardens as part of the national strategy to combat malnutrition. During our project evaluation, a young mother came to us and said, when her vision became blurry, she went to see the doctor. And the doctor asked her, when was the last time she had greens? She couldn't remember. So he advised her to go and have some vegetables and come back to see him in 2 weeks. Luckily, the garden that we had built with her was ready to harvest. So she began to eat his vegetables. And at the end of the 2 weeks, not only her eyesight had regained its 20/20 form, but her skin had cleared up and she was beaming with pride. And she told us, look at me now. Right there and then, I learned that food was medicine. That if we eat well, if we prioritize availability and affordability of food, we don't just feed people, we nourish them. When I returned to Vancouver after 7 years of living in Rwanda, I became involved in a groundbreaking project, which is the revitalization of Hoganzali, a black neighborhood that was destroyed by the city of Vancouver to build the Georgia and Dunsmuir viaducts. During COVID-19 pandemic, Hope Gonzalez Society decided to support tenants of the Nora Hendricks Place. Nora Hendricks Place is a temporary modular housing that prioritizes Black and Indigenous people who are unhoused. Located in Canada's poorest postal code, the downtown east side has one affordable grocery store. I designed a project that brought together tenants of the Nora Hendricks Place and community residents who came. We grew food, we prepared meals to nourish our souls. What I've learned through the years in fighting malnutrition is that the quality of food we eat and grow is more important than the quantity. Systemic issues like poverty, racism contribute to malnutrition, but that does not mean that us as an individual or as a community, we are powerless. As a hungry 15-year-old refugee, I would never have thought that today I would be helping others build community and kitchen gardens and also have a say in what we put on the table. The war against malnutrition cannot be fought in isolation. We need to think globally and act locally. We need to work collectively. We need to invest in food systems that prioritize growing nutritious food cost effectively. Thank you for listening to me.